We will go ahead and get started. Chairman Filios will be joining us shortly. He got detained at his last appointment. So, welcome to the Human Resource Personnel Changes Meeting, May 25th, 2022 at 11 a.m. Commissioner Brooks is on the phone. Commissioner Duncan is in person. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay.
No changes.
All right, and I think we will go ahead and hold off on item number 1 until Chairman Filios gets here. So we will go ahead with item number 2, exception to policy 120, Prosecutor's Office. Barry or HR?
I'll take it. This is
Okay.
Barry McHugh for the record. Oh, it's hot. So this is a request to hire somebody basically as receptionist secretary in my office. This person probably has 13 years of applicable experience, and I know that from experience, the board certainly doesn't like to hire people into a position where they have nowhere to go. I think the reality is that the turnover at those lower paying positions has been more than it has been in the past, and so the reality, I think that the chances that this person will move up into a higher paying position is pretty good. But nevertheless, it's also appropriate, and I don't even know if it's an exception to the policy so much as another avenue to set an appropriate salary when this person has the experience that would justify even higher than a 10. But based on the idea that you don't want to hire somebody when you have nowhere to go, I'm asking the board to approve at grade 2, step 10, rather than 97% of midpoint to reflect this person's experience as well as a way of basically hiring somebody at a pay level that hopefully will engender longevity going forward.
Sure. So compression issues inside the department and outside the department.
So inside the department, I think the next higher person in terms of position and salary would be still higher than this person, as I understand, if I recall correctly. And also, both the people that would be at the next graded position higher have less years of experience.
Okay.
So outside the department, I can't speak to.
All right. Sylvia, anything to add?
No, Barry is correct on his department. He wouldn't have a compression issue because there's just that one position that's a grade 2. And his other staff that are grade 3 are paid a little bit higher than that.
Okay. So is this your only grade 2 position?
It is. Well,
Do you have another?
we may have a part-time 2 in juvenile diversion, but I don't want to say this is the only one when I'm not 100% sure of that.
Okay. And Bill, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. I think it's, I've taken a look at it, and I think there's no doubt that we need to move on this as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate reality is in our lower grades, we're going to see it across all elected officials, that we're not going to be able to maintain that in the lower grades. So, all right. Bill, do you want to make a motion?
No, you go ahead and do it, Leslie.
I move that we approve exception to policy 120 for the prosecutor's office as outlined.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Item 3, employee retention bonuses, juvenile detention. So, JT, Eric.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. A.T. Taylor, Director, Juvenile Detention. Bringing before you 2 different items this morning. The first one is for bonuses for post-certified employees at the facility during our current staffing shortage. We had looked in, I talked to HR and the auditor's office, and with our salary savings, I wanted to approach getting $500 a month for each post-certified employee for the 4 consecutive months to finish out FY22. This is budget neutral with the salary savings we currently have from the open positions.
Okay. And what is your estimated vacancy rate? You have some retirements coming up next month?
Yeah, right now we're down 6 positions. We've got one that will be leaving within the next 2 weeks, and we've got 2 retirements coming up, at least 2 retirements. Another one is being considered before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. So that's almost 10 positions.
Yes.
And you have how many total?
26.
Okay. All right.
Requested 26.
Okay, and I think this is the same thing that we've done for the other departments who are experience that kind of,
Correct. Recently, we had done it for the sheriff's office for detention and detention deputies and the emergency communication officers. And we had done something similar, I think it was a year or so ago, for community development.
right, I remember that. Bill, any questions?
No, again, I think we find ourselves in this position all over the county. Question I do have, are we calling these things bonuses or stipends?
We're calling retention bonuses.
Yeah, retention, I think that's what they were called with the sheriff's department as well, as retention bonuses.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, would you like me to make this motion as well?
Yes, please. Just go ahead. Yes, please, Leslie.
I move that we approve the employee retention bonuses for juvenile detention, their post-certified employees, $500 a month from now until the end of the fiscal year.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Duncan,
Aye. All right, item 4, hiring incentive bonuses for juvenile detention.
And Commissioner, we find ourselves in the same situation that almost every department in this county is dealing with, well, not just this county, throughout, definitely throughout the state. We're looking at, what we're requesting is a $1,000 signing bonus to be advertised to try to attract employees. Right now, we are miserably failing getting applications in to try to fill the positions that we talked about previously. The $1,000 bonus would be, it would be delivered in 2 phases. One, upon hiring and getting through the initial training that we provide within our facility, with approximately 6 weeks worth of training. The second would be, the second $500 would be upon completion of post-academy as post-certified specialist.
Okay. Bill, any questions on this request?
I do not.
Okay. So I guess, are we doing this for Sheriff's Department as well?
There have been discussion about sign-on bonuses, but nothing has, in our recruiting team meetings, but nothing has been brought forward. I know maybe Marcia or the sheriff can speak to that, but they were going to anticipate some bonuses for fiscal year 23. But
Okay.
it might be something we would want to consider more countywide.
Sure. Okay. Well, I suppose if they wanted to
Commissioner,
do
if I may,
that.
this is for this year.
Yes.
This is to close out, and that's based on 7 positions that we would hope to hire before now at the end of the year, and that's also out of salary savings.
Yeah.
In talking with Brandy at the auditor's office, she's also, and it will be added to our budget that we presented here in a couple of weeks. And this $1,000 per employee in the 23 budget, not considered today, but
Right.
it is out there.
Right. And I guess here's the way I look at it is if you have open positions, you need this bonus to recruit people. And so it's based on salary savings. So it's not necessarily something I think we need to go, because why would we offer a bonus if we're completely filled up? Which sadly I don't see happening. So might just be a practice from now on. So, Okay, so we're on item number 4, and it's the hiring bonuses for detention.
Okay.
For juvenile
Yeah, keep
detention.
going. Go ahead.
So, okay, so Bill, any other questions?
I have no other questions.
Okay, then I move that we approve the hiring incentive bonuses as outlined for the post positions at juvenile detention.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, motion's carried. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. All right, because the sheriff was waiting to do this, so we actually really only have 2 fairly quick ones to go. So are you
Okay.
all right with that? Okay. All right. Item number 5, mid-year increase due to compression, building and grounds. Hi, Greg.
I hired a guy from Parks and Waterways, and he was hired at a higher rate. He's a grade 5 out of 5, step 5, and that's causing compression issues with 2 of my other employees. So I just want to move 2 of my employees up to grade 5, step 8, and a grade 5, step 6. It's going to be about $1,900 difference for the rest of the year.
Right. Okay, and then Sylvia, is this one of the positions we're actually looking at? Because we have several throughout the county, but they're not uniform?
Yes,
Okay,
the job descriptions are being evaluated and compared, and then they'll be graded through the formal reclassification process, but yes.
okay. And do you see any issues with this request?
No,
Okay.
no, and it's been something we've been addressing as we're hiring staff, and it may cause some compression. You guys have been taking that on one by one.
Okay, thank you. Bill, any questions?
No questions.
And it
Yes.
looks like your budget can absorb it. I'm fine.
All right, I move that we approve the mid-year increase due to compression for building and grounds as outlined for the 2 positions.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Go right ahead, keep going.
Okay, so item 6, temporary employee request for human resources. And Sylvia?
Yes, Commissioners, what I come to you is a request to hire a temporary staff person to help us in HR because we will have a vacancy. And based on the volume of open positions that we have, which are teetering at about 96, we'll need someone to assist us with some of that process. We would use Express Employment for that service, and the funds are being requested out of the Board of County Commissioners temporary budget, temporary staffing budget, which is $70,000. Our request is $8,500, which would be projected through the remainder of this year. However, we're hoping to get someone on board within a couple months.
Sure. And with any luck, maybe this person might work
Yes,
out. Try
yes.
before you buy. That's always
Right,
helpful.
right. The one thing, if this individual worked out, we would have to buy
them
out
out.
that contract,
Yeah.
but it might be worth it.
Right, yeah. So
Thank
we'll
you.
we'll look
Fair
at that. So Brandy, Keith, have we not dipped into the 70 grand this year? Wow, I'm shocked. We made it all the way till May. Good deal. Okay. Bill, Chris, any questions?
No, I'm fine.
No.
Okay. You want to take this one?
Yeah, okay, so I'll make a motion therefore that with regard to item 6, that we approve the temporary employee request for HR to come out of the temp budget.
Second.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, motion's carried.
All
Okay.
right. Back to number 1.
Okay, so back to number 1. Okay, general discussion of pay benefits and the pay study for the sheriff's office. Okay, so let me make a couple of comments here. With regard to pay, we have our, I guess it might be first budget session this afternoon.
Yeah.
And one of the items on that agenda is in fact pay. Actually, it's countywide, but obviously involves KCSO as well. So the question of pay at least on a cursory level for budgetary purposes, is going to be taken up this afternoon at the budget meeting, which is what, 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll be able to address that. I think benefits is probably going to come later, within the next month or two. So where, how do I put this without overextending myself? I think you're going to be looking at a fairly generous package based on anticipated revenue. So if we can be patient, we can begin to take this up this afternoon, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Would it be okay just to have a short conversation on this, on kind of the state of where the situation is?
Do you want to do it now?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay, and I'd also like, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, to close this meeting in memory of the victims of Texas.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. In fact, would you like to take maybe 30 seconds of silence right now?
Sure.
Let's do that.
And, okay, let's do that in memory of the, is it 21 that
Right
lost
now.
their lives? Let's do that right now. Let's take 30 seconds for a moment of silence. Thank you, Sheriff. Okay, then. Thank you, everyone, and may we never forget.
Okay.
Go right ahead,
Mr.
Sheriff.
Chairman, Commissioners, as you know, we've had some discussions about potential funding with the Sheriff's Office, levies and what have you, and I am a member of many councils that I have created and many business organizations. And last week, I went to one of the organizations that I'm involved in the Chamber of Commerce, and spoke to the executive board. And the gentleman sitting next to me, who's also a volunteer with the Sheriff's Office, is Rick Rasmussen, who is an employer here. And he stops me mid-presentation, rather abruptly, I might add, and says, "Sheriff, is this the disparity between your agency and other agencies in the Pacific Northwest?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "You are destined to fail." So with that, I would just like to ask Mr. Rick Rasmussen, CEO of Northwest Specialty Hospital, to kind of explain the challenges that you see in me and in hiring in Kootenai County.
Again, for the record, I'm Rick Rasmussen, 55-year resident of Kootenai County. I'm also the current chairman of the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber Board. Been on the Chamber of Commerce Board for 9 years, so.
I'm sorry, Sheriff, did you know he was coming when the agenda was made?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so because of the case in Bonner County, he really should have been put on the agenda. So
It says Sheriff's Office, and he's a part of the Sheriff's Office, so I don't.
he's a guest speaker. So I'm just concerned that anybody reading this and didn't see that he was speaking who may have, wanted to.
I would
So-
argue that this is not an action item also.
Sure.
So if maybe we can get an opinion from Dave or Darren.
Can we just move it to public comment? Would that make it simpler?
Can you come to the microphone, Darren? I'm sorry.
We should probably have some training on this issue again for the board. So it's the board's obligation to police what's on the agenda. And there's, I see a need for training here. So this is a gray area here. We've got a recent opinion from the AG's office regarding Bonner County. This is it'll fit, to answer your question, Commissioner, it will fit under either item. It's gray. It's not the best thing to do. I looked at this. I talked to Brett about the speaker a little bit because I didn't recognize you. The best practice would be to have listed for the public is to list a guest speaker. That didn't occur. We have a description here, general discussion of pay. It's probably generally okay, depending on where the discussion goes. But moving forward, something like this, we should describe who the speaker is going to be so that the public can watch this if they want to.
We
So
know
I-
we have quite a following.
Yes, so,
Okay, so I would say going forward, your point's well taken, but in deference to our speaker,
Yes.
let's go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you stopped me rather
yeah, so,
abruptly.
yeah, going through the numbers, and so one of the things, so wearing a couple hats here. So as the chairman of the chamber board, I've done a lot of work on economic development. It's one of those things that when we look at the future growth, and have been here for 55 years, you're looking at, you know, how are you going to be competitive for the region? You know, when we've lost out every year on multiple areas, it comes back to comparable pay. I work in the healthcare industry, you know, and I know Treasurer Massa, you know, he's on the board. We compete every day with Washington for healthcare. My family's of educators. There's been a Rasmussen at Coeur d'Alene High School ever since it opened up in 1970. And you've seen teachers leave all the time. And so when you go out and you look at it, the number, we've done studies around this, and I've not worked with Kootenai, but it's been very close. If we're not within 3% of what we're seeing over in Spokane for competing for us with the healthcare world, we're not going to get these people. They will turn us down. We're competing against $20,000 sign-on bonuses. There is a reason people want to live in Idaho, want to live in Kootenai County, but it's got to be comparable. So if you're off on some of these, we're up to close to 20, 30%. You're not even going to be acceptable. It's the same thing we've seen when you go to the economic development meetings that I've met with them, and you hear why we lose out on Amazon over to the airport in Spokane, and we lose out on other things, is because we're trying to undercut the base pay. Those bonuses you talked about earlier are great, but they're taxed at a higher rate. So what they effectively see is 50% of those bonuses, right? You don't see it when you get it in the base. So if you're not competitive on the base, us in Kootenai will not keep our doors open if we don't stay close. And that was my point, was that they need to have comparable, you need to get within a bandwidth of a certain percentage. You cannot be 20 or 30% behind. We've got to do things with housing, all these deed restricted. I've met with 3 developers in the last 2 weeks around deed restricted land for first responders, educators, and healthcare workers. We need to find housing, and then we need to close the gap on the pay differential. And that was my point to Sheriff Norris, is that you could have the best place to work, great leaders, great team, but the family can't live here the way the housing's gone, and then to be so out of the strain, you know, out of the realm of closeness as to comparable pay, it's not that far away, it's 30 miles. And so that was my point to him. And so he asked, you know, I volunteer with the sheriff department. I wanted to be supportive of our community. I do a lot of things in the community here because I want it to be a great place to live. I want our kids to come back here and live in a place to live, and I want us to be safe. And, you know, we've had to look at our pay all the time. We have to look at, we do it targeted. We look at what are the highest risk areas, where are the things. We can't go do it overall $4 across the board. We have to be selective and targeted and look to where there's shortages, and look just like what's going on with the Gravy Nation. You've got to have a targeted approach to be able to compete, and so that we can maintain our basic services, or it'll be chaos. And that was my point to him, and that's when we spoke to him. And I don't have the magic answer to it, and it was just, but when we looked at it in our study, we looked at when we weren't within that 3%, the amount of declinations was like, we lost 36 people in a 6-month period that came, said they want to work at Northwest, they do that, and then we show them our benefits are really close. Benefits are not moving the needle with people. It's that base pay. And then if we're not within 3, we lost out on 36 people in 6 months. We've changed our base to get within 3% of Providence, Kootenai, Multicare, all the folks in NIACH and others, and we've had very few non-acceptances now. So, I mean, I don't know why it's 3%, but that's what we've been able to find. But when you're 20 to 30 and some of these 40, you're not, you could have the best candidate, but I just feel you're not going to be competitive. And we gotta change the way we do economic development. We can't keep bringing in call centers. We gotta get real jobs here, and so we gotta get competitive on the pay.
Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, each one of these pieces of paper designate a resignation that we received in the last few days. Has nothing to do with working conditions or where they work. One employee yesterday was sobbing in my office saying she loves it here, but she's going to be making $720 more as a records specialist in the city of Coeur d'Alene. She's a records specialist for us. And I was wondering why I had not been able to get an executive assistant. And I asked Dave Hagar, who handles personnel for Coeur d'Alene Police Department, what does Lee White start his executive assistant at? They have 114 employees, and she only deals with 5 city council members and 1 mayor and 1 city manager. Whereas my executive assistant would cover 30 elected officials, 260 current employees, an array of city council members and what have you. And they start their executive assistant at $22 an hour, tops out at $31.14. And mine has been vacant for 18 months, as many openings have been, jobs have been, and they start theirs out at $22 an hour. But these disparities, I have already told the men and women of the sheriff's office, we will never be the highest paid law enforcement agency in Kootenai County. So if that's what you want to do, this is not the agency for you to be at. But we need to be close. And I have provided you with these documents. I have some more if you'd like them, but I don't expect to be the highest. Just get us close and get us a step system that is not the same, but maybe a year longer than Coeur d'Alene Police and Spokane County Sheriff. I don't expect them to be the same.
So to fund this, will you go for a permanent override levy to fund this?
Well,
Because it's not going to be within our taxing authority.
So I have been throughout these same councils, and the advice that I'm getting from economists, one that visited here last week, is that it will likely be a poor economy in November.
Recession, mild
Yes.
recession, yeah.
And the likelihood of that occurring is not real good at this time. So I believe that based on, and I'm going to tell you, the group that I spoke with Mr. Rasmussen, they had the same reservation that the outlook in November is not going to be pretty, and that it's going to be a heavier lift even if the economy was in good shape. But many economists are predicting a recession by then, and it's going to be a heavy lift. So no, I think that what I want to talk to you about, Mr. Matheson, is that based on the councils, all of them that I have been involved in and spoken in front of, it's going to be a heavy lift. And I don't know if burdening the property tax owner is the right way to go. Do we have something that is coming up with the governor and legislators that is a different avenue? Yes, I am going to try everything. I am going to talk to Governor Little. I am going to talk to the legislators on how they create this formula for property tax in a county like ours, which is growing, one of the fastest growing counties in the United States. So to answer your question, I don't think that is going to be feasible for this November. But I'm not giving up on other avenues. But I believe that we should reconsider this $24 million remodel project in the times that we are likely going to be entering. I think that maybe we have some other options we should consider. Family law, courthouses at Kootenai Electric, probate, Kootenai Electric. Maybe we can look at other things, but I just don't think $24 million is a wise commitment right now.
So that $24 million, which is actually $22 million, can,
Plus a $2 million HVAC upgrade to here.
that's here, that has to happen whether the building comes or not. And ARPA's getting off the subject. So what I wanted to tell you is that money cannot be used for ongoing expenses. So if you're talking about using the money for pay raises, that cannot happen.
I'm talking about sustaining public safety. 2 of these resignations are in dispatch. And what have I told you? No less than 15 times what's going to happen at dispatch.
And I think that's part of the issue, is you are going out to the public over and over again saying that your people are underpaid and overworked. Who would want to apply to your business? Who would want to apply to the sheriff's department when that's been the message? You do have a great team.
That's been a culture here with this county for years.
But Sheriff, let me jump in for a moment. The idea of the levy may be a tough one, and it may be a tough pass, but I think we need to try it. Because if your message is resonating with people, and if people want the emphasis on public safety that they claim, or you believe they do, and I believe they do, then pass it. Now, if they don't pass it, then that potentially gives us other avenues. And they may be avenues that, looking at it today, are not necessarily acceptable, such as, and I dare say this, fund balance, which is a probably reprobate way to go about this. But if you go out for a levy and they refuse it, and we're already capped, with our taxing authority, we may have to resort to fund balance. Dangerous move, because that could take the county into insolvency at some point. But the point is, it still sends the message to the public that says, do you want this or do you not?
I just think that last November was a great time to do a levy. I think that this November, with the economic climate that is predicted, it's going to be a much heavier lift, and I don't think that the property tax owners should bear the burden. I believe personally that sales tax is something that we should have a conversation on. But I'm looking at the economic future, and all indicators suggest that it's not going to be very healthy in November.
And I think your idea of pursuing a legislature is a good one, but watching what they've done in the last couple of years, even for that matter, crimping our fund balance, which not the fund balance.
Just the revenue.
Foregone balance,
Yeah.
okay, which is running at 10 to 11 million bucks. We can only tap into $500,000 of it. And ultimately, that would hit the taxpayer anyway, but it is an option. Well, they reduced that option. So when we go after the legislature, I don't have high hopes there. I think much of what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to probably try to do on our own if we're going to get anywhere in a reasonable amount of time.
I am hoping, and I am parading a discussion for the largest sheriff's offices in the state of Idaho to get this meeting with the governor, to have a conversation on a sales tax that will help augment the largest. There's some counties that don't have a population problem as far as a jail population problem, but we're the big 5, we all do. But at this point in time, I am trying to sustain people who are leaving this industry, and we're not going to, or going to other law enforcement agencies, we're not going to be able to recover them as quickly as we may have done 2 or 3 years ago.
Point.
And we also have to attract from other industries to people who have housing here already. So I know that, guess what? Maybe it's a 3-year Band-Aid. I don't know what the answer is, but maybe it's a 3-year Band-Aid to get us through this period of time.
And I think that, Sylvia, do you want to comment? I don't want to put you on the spot here, but is there anything you can add regarding what we're contemplating? Or is it premature?
We're still working on the numbers, and you'll see we asked for a placeholder for the budget, but that isn't without the full calculations being done. Our survey, the way we were doing it was we took the market that was chosen by the board and the electeds, you average that, and then you compare it to where we're at. And the way we're doing it is we're putting those people at market. And then our goal is to age that data to say, what does it reflect for 23, because it's 22 data. So that's the methodology we've been using, based on guidance we've been provided. And if the board would like us to strategize in a different manner and calculate it differently, we'd be happy to do that.
I guess the big discussion in that is define market.
Okay, I'm not going to beat this dead horse again.
let's-
We picked a market, we agreed as elected officials, you were in on that.
Not doing anything, and you know it.
Okay, so once again, we're not going to talk about this.
People have died
so-
because of this problem. We need to fix this, and I don't care what it takes to fix it.
Okay, but
That's your job.
you're looking at one aspect. You're going to have to adjust your model
we
within
are.
the circumstances.
Yes,
And so
we
we
are.
are looking at that. Mr. Rasmussen has the ability to pay whatever he needs to pay because he's not using taxpayer dollars to fund that. He is able to adjust his prices and all that. And we are still have to work under statute. We cannot adjust our prices to the point where it's more than the cost of the service. So we're doing everything we can. I know you don't believe it because we're not saying yes to everything that you bring to us, but we are working on it. And I'm sorry that you're unhappy with the market. It is what it is right now, and we're going to look at all of these things in step. The first budget meeting's at 1 o'clock today. We're never going to make you happy.
You're not moving to the market. We have to be quicker and offer these people a job much quicker than we did years ago.
Exactly. So that all has to do with the recruiting and with your background process. And I understand that, some things are going to be looked at. So maybe we can get people through the background quicker, different testing modes. I mean, there's a bunch of different things that each department has to look into to, adopt a different model with our circumstances.
And the particular challenge too, Sheriff, is that when we look at the top 4 reasons, and we've been through this before, that people leave, specifically KCSO, first is retirement, the second one was personal, what was the third was wages, and the fourth was career change. The one that we, the board, can affect is wages. The other 3 is difficult for us. And the thing is, the challenges that you face, I don't think are unique to Kootenai County. I think other jurisdictions are facing the same issue. And even if you look at it from a national perspective, if every person currently unemployed today went to work, we'd still be short 2 million workers. We have a very systemic problem in the nation right now. That doesn't solve your problem, I understand that. But I think when we get together at 1 o'clock, I think you're going to see a sincere effort to try to fix this to the best we can.
I have people leaving to go to other industries
Yeah,
here in Kootenai County that they never even thought that they would enter.
sure.
And we have to provide many of our services. We provide dispatch services, not just for the sheriff's office, but for a vast majority of public safety agencies here.
We're well aware of
So
it.
we all, I don't think that you are.
We are completely aware of
We
it.
are going to expand our online reporting for criminal activity. We are going to put calls on hold, and we're going to have to start stacking our calls. We're only going to be able to have 3 dispatchers on a shift when we should have 6. So I don't think that you do understand the public safety component to this. I'm asking you to, this building in these economic times, premium pay can be used for that. I know that it's not a sustainable, but guess what? It's a 3-year Band-Aid, and I promise you that I will come up with a solution within 3 years at the state level, or we'll do a levy proposal at a different time. I just don't think that right now is the right time for it.
Okay.
I'll just,
Bill, do you want to weigh in? We haven't heard from you.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Rasmussen for taking the time to come in and giving his opinion from his perspective with the healthcare industry and Chamber of Commerce in general. On the other hand, there's nobody that doubts that we have a problem, but it's not just the sheriff's problem, but that's the one that we see today, and we need to get some plan in place, not for this year or not next year, but for the next 3 years, and we need to start looking at all possibilities cooperatively instead of competitively, because I don't know a department in the county that has people that are all paid up to where they should be. Many of them are not, and many of those positions are vacant. And it's not just what the sheriff is saying. It's we've had people accepting positions and then turning them down because they get here and they find they can't live. So it's a problem we all need to get together cooperatively and solve.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's wrap up. Public comment? Nothing? 11:41, meeting adjourned. Thank you.